not exactly in favor of the Lakers. So how did LeBron and company move forward here? And the struggle bus theme, it continues. Another loss for the Warriors, this time to Luka and the Mavs. So a lot to get to. NBA Today starts right now. Welcome to NBA Today. Happy Friday. I'm Malika Andrews alongside Matt Barnes and Chiney Agumake. We're going to have a ton more folks stopping by and joining us in just a bit. But we need to start in Brooklyn because Kevin Durant, he returned, but he needs a couple more folks to join alongside him. So Brooklyn falls to 500, 32-32 after losing again last night to a Heat team that was resting Jimmy Butler and Kyle Lowry. So that is not good. But KD, he was good, dropping 31 rather easily in his return. The first game he's played since his mid-January MCL injury. The Nets were up by 16 in this one, but ultimately Tyler Hero and company, they would mount a comeback, and they stole one in Brooklyn, handling the Nets their third straight loss. Here's KD after the game.
I feel great. I'm only going to get better, more comfortable out there. Take more of a load out there too when I get, more games under my belt. So I felt solid.
In your experience, how long does it take a team to catch a rhythm together?
It could take one game. It could take 20 games, It is just a matter of actually just getting out there and seeing what works for us. It's not like a certain formula criteria that goes into this how you know when you build chemistry. It's just kind of organic thing that happens naturally.
All right, so that's how KD sees it. But Chiney, what were your takeaways from Durant's return to action last night?
Well, it's been 47 days, 21 games. You would think, maybe he'd come back a little slow. No, we know what KD does. So how about this? Let me show you what he did that I loved. Watch his left hand here. He knows, all right, first of all, he's got a center that's pretty mobile, 6'11", mismatch. Watch his left hand. Get away. I want to take this one-on-one. So now you're on an island, and then he gets into his package, his bag, between the legs. That's a nice little tempo dribble. And look at that high release, being a 7-footer, all eyes on the rim. Cash money, another play where you see, all right, this is difficult because they switched to zone here.
Right.
Watch the zone. He takes on all stages of the defense, gets to his mid-range, 1, 2, 3, 4, you name it. That's Kevin Durant. That's the one we love.
Absolutely.
Now, the problem here is the fact that he needs his other teammates because we're starting to realize that even if you're LeBron James, even if you're Kevin Durant, you still need a squad to support you to make a playoff push.
Absolutely. And Chiney, another piece of news coming out of Brooklyn yesterday, General Manager Sean Marks told our friends at Yes Network that Joe Harris is going to require a season-ending second ankle surgery. So that's some brutal news there. Matt, I want to turn to you here, though, because how worried should the Nets be about even making the play-in, let alone the playoffs here?
In fairness, if Miami was resting their stars, the Brooklyn was resting Kyrie and Simmons too. So in fairness, but I'm not necessarily worried. I'm worried if Kyrie can only play road games in the playoffs. That's the only way I'm worried. I think this team is going to continue to build chemistry. KD came back like he was never gone, and this is just to show that you remember they were second in the East with James Harden, who kind of played when he wanted to, and pretty much no Kyrie for the most part. So I'm confident that once KD has his footing back, which looks like Ben should be back soon, I think this team's going to be all right.
But between 1 game, 20 games, that's what Kevin Durant was saying. It's not an exact science how long it takes to build chemistry here. And we know that Mayor Eric Adams, today, they rolled back the indoor vaccine mandate, but it does not yet apply to Kyrie Irving. That is still in place. So how worried are you, Chiney?
I'm worried just because as a basketball fan, I want to see them in the playoffs. And I also want to see Ben Simmons out there as well. I think Kyrie Irving, despite the politics of not taking the vaccine and being unavailable for 50% of the games or so, Ben Simmons is the one that you're really looking forward to see how this this new look team is going to play, because this is supposed to unlock, quote unquote, Ben Simmons' game. He's someone that has really struggled with trying to share the paint with players in Philly, but now you don't really have those issues in Brooklyn. And so I'm waiting on Ben, who I know we're not here to argue mental health or anything, but hopefully if they get Ben back, who can help them defensively, guarding bigs and switching out there too, then you have Kyrie with, like you said, rolling back slowly, right? And maybe in a week or two, maybe there's a circumstance where he can play more games. There's a possibility that they can turn it around. The problem is you're going to be in an uphill battle against an East that seems to be getting better and better, whether you're the Bulls or you're the Sixers or even the defending champs Bucks. I mean, have you looked at Giannis's numbers this year?
Insane.
We're not even talking about him really in MVP conversation. They could easily repeat as well.
He's going to finish top 5 in
Oh, yeah.
MVP.
Oh, yeah, top 5.
There's no question about that.
The standard is like 1 or 2.
Right, but for him, for a two-time back-to-back MVP. But for the Nets, I mean, they shouldn't be relying, right, on something outside necessarily of their control, which is whether or not laws are going to change. It's building the chemistry that with the guys that are in front of them, right, Matt?
Well, that's why I don't think the Ben Simmons acclamation to this team is going to be as big as everyone thinks it is. I think it's going to be important for his back to be fully healthy or you know, as close as it could be to healthy because, again, he's a pass-first guy, so we're not really worried about him. Where is he going to find the rhythm in his shot? He's going to bring an immediate energy and a hunger. This guy hasn't played since last June.
Right.
So he's anxious to get back on the court, and the immediate effect this is the first team all-defender. This guy can guard 1 through 5 on the court. He's going to bring plenty of energy. And like I said, I just think KD's getting his wheels back. Ben will be back. Who knows with Kyrie, but at the same time, KD showed us what he can do last year pretty much single-handedly through the playoffs, a big toe away from going to the Eastern Conference Finals. So, again, I don't really worry when it comes to Brooklyn because the KD is still young enough to be able to carry that team.
There's a handful of guys in the NBA that you just don't bet against. Kevin Durant is one of them. Another one is LeBron James. But there is no shortage of struggle bus going on in the NBA right now. So let's go from one struggling team, boop, boop, to a super team that is also struggling. It's only natural now that we pivot to the Lakers. So LeBron, Russell Westbrook and company, they took on the Clippers last night in yet another Battle of LA, which has been lopsided as of late. This is how it shook out. So in the second quarter, actually, the Lakers, they got it going a little bit. LeBron James and won. He was flexing his shoulders a little, getting rolling. Here, again, the Lakers force a turnover. Austin Reeves brings it down, and look at Malik Monk. My goodness. So the Lakers, they finished this quarter on quite the run, and there's the exclamation point. But when we go ahead to the third quarter, Chiney Agumake, that's when the wheels started to fall off a little bit.
Yeah, you see two teams trending in different directions, the Lakers downward and the Clippers upward. I mean, Reggie Jackson has been sensational, especially for them with how he plays. He takes these matchups personally. He was like, oh, Russ, you guard me? Easy money. Oh, Malik, you guard me? Easy money.
Well, you said Russ guarding me?
Sorry, I lost. And Russ did not like that because if you saw how things go, bam, he's like still trying to fight for the ball. But who walked away with it? Reggie.
Reggie don't care.
And he had something else to say.
Reggie's a demon.
From deep, dagger. The Lakers, they lose this one. The Clippers, they go on to win it easily. Here's LeBron James after the game.
Hit it.
I'm in a better team. You got to get a win. I don't even look at this point. I don't even look at the record or the standings. I look at the next opponent and in between days, how what do we not do so well? What do we do well? How can we continue to push and get a win and get over the hump? So.
There's been blowouts, there have been boos, there's been everything that, probably everything's the opposite of what you envisioned.
What did I envision?
I would imagine some wins.
I mean, you said, based on what I envisioned, I want to know what you think I envisioned.
You envisioned coming here and winning a championship, or at least being in
the season over?
It certainly isn't on.
Is the season over?
No, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, yikes. So there's all of that. Let's welcome in senior NBA insider Adrian Wojnarowski now. And Woj, when a team is sliding like this, right, oftentimes we start to ask, well, should a change be made? So I'm just going to put this bluntly. Why haven't the Lakers made a coaching change here?
I think two primary reasons, I'm told. One, they are accounting for the fact that Anthony Davis is out and has missed a lot of games this season. Kendrick Nunn hasn't played yet this season, a guard they signed that they thought could impact this team. But ultimately, they don't feel in L.A. right now that it would make a difference to let Frank Vogel go. This is a team that wants to still get in the play-in, to get Anthony Davis back, to find a way to get their group. And they still have a coach in Frank Vogel who's won a championship there, who's had success in the playoffs. And listen, it is hard for any coach to survive the kind of games the Lakers have had this week where you don't see effort and you're getting blown out. That can't go on forever.
Can't coach that.
But the Lakers still would like to get through the rest of this season with Frank Vogel.
Absolutely.
Vogel's the scapegoat. You can't. Is it his fault? This is a poorly constructed roster. This is there's no secret. And I think the only reason why we all had hope in the Lakers is because of LeBron's greatness, and AD is who he is. But at the end of the day, this is an older team. So to me, if they can sneak their way in the playoffs, this team is built for the playoffs. And I say that because this is just an older team. I don't think anyone thought that this Russell Westbrook experience would go this bad. You know, no one would predict at the beginning of the season, especially the way he played at the end of last season, this would go this bad. So this team right now is just trying to stay afloat. Hopefully AD can come back and give them something. I think AD's inability to stay on the court throughout his career, but in particular this year, has really hurt this team.
Yeah, I mean, some of those injuries when a 7-foot man falls into your knee, there's just bad luck at some point. But Russell Westbrook did say last night that he felt that his role has sort of changed from game to game to game, and so it's been hard for him to find a rhythm. Chiney, what do you think of that?
Yeah, I think it was difficult because, again, I keep bringing up that the Lakers, their roster started with 12 new players, and they're up to 14 right now. So the number one thing that they needed was chemistry. And remember, Perk was here on the show saying, you know, preseason is when you got to really go. Listen, preseason is when you really have to go. And they sort of relax because they have older players. And then next thing you know, LeBron James misses, earlier a large portion of the early third. So Russ is like, okay, this is LeBron's team. AD won a championship, was integral on that, but I have to do this on my own. Then LeBron James comes back, and now AD's gone. When you have so many new players, it's hard to build chemistry, and especially when they're veterans that are stuck in their ways. We've seen the intention to try to change, play different styles. Russ instantly upped the pace. But the reality is, and Matt, you know this as well, when you play with the team, there's an opportune time in the first 20 or so games to get it right. They did not get it right then. It's hard to do that in the middle of the season, approaching All-Star break, and they're 0-4 after All-Star break. It's hard to do it now.
And this roster's turned over every year LeBron's been here. And I don't think people understand. You see big names on paper. You have a handful of Hall of Famers on one team. But as Chiney can attest to, chemistry is so important. I think it's so undervalued today. These guys made it look easy because they struck lightning in the bubble and were able to win with the newly constructed roster. But it is very hard to win year after year when you're, like you said, you're bringing 12 new guys in. That's insane.
Not to mention the fact that it seems that within the season, based on who's been available, their roster has changed over and over and over again. Because I think back to that stretch where LeBron James was out for a bit, Russell Westbrook, he found his groove. Even if it was only for 5 games, he found his groove a little bit. But then you add LeBron back, things change. You add Anthony Davis back, things change again. So this is a Lakers team where right now is the time they have to catch a rhythm.
Hope is alive.
Well,
is it?
Right now.
It's what are the things where you Draymond Green. So you think the Warriors miss his energy and what he's provided through the years?
Straight out the gate, let's get it, boy. I'll get you any shot you want.
Draymond hustles the ball off the floor, back to paint. Look out. Down the lane. Slam.
Oh, he missed the right-handed dunk. In and out. He missed the shot tonight. Did he? I did it. He did too. It's okay. Keep it moving. Chasing that fair world tour. They don't love you like that. You can't get no fair world tour. They don't love you like that. You ain't got that type of love. You thought you was something? Number one, the best player on the floor.
Draymond puts it on the deck, goes up, got fouled, scores!
Yes, sir. Thank you.
And the Dubs, they could have used Dre last night because Luka dropped 41, 10, and 9 on the Warriors en route to a 122-113 victory for Dallas. So Dorian Finney-Smith, he dropped 18. Spencer Dinwiddie chipped in 17. And then the star on the other side, Steph Curry, he didn't score a single point in the fourth.
Obviously, we're going to have to get healthy. Draymond, we desperately need Draymond. You guys know that. But if we can get Draymond healthy, in rhythm, hopefully, with some good amount of action going into the playoffs, you're starting to see, some of the lineups that we're going to be able to throw out there that are more versatile and should be able to wall off penetration better.
All right, but let's not forget about Luka Doncic, who led both teams in points, rebounds, and assists for the 26th time in his career, including ties. That's 11 more such games than anybody else has within their first 4 seasons in the NBA history. That's according to Elias. All right, now let's welcome in ESPN Warriors reporter Kendra Andrews. And Kendra, I know the Dubs fans, they are eager to get the birthday boy back in action, but what update do you have for us on Draymond Green?
Well, Malika, just about a week ago, Draymond practiced with the team for the first time since early January. That practice consisted of some drill work and then some 5-on-0 conditioning. On Wednesday, he joined the team in Dallas, which is the first time he's joined them on a road trip. And that practice, he consisted of more drills, then a 3-on-3 scrimmage that also featured James Wiseman and Klay Thompson. Then another big milestone on Thursday. He joined the team during the game at the arena in Dallas. The first time he's been with the team during a game since the 7 seconds he played on Clay Day. And Malika, he was up and coaching the entire game. At one point, he pulled Steph Curry and GP2 to the side, was in their ear, was up at half court by Steve Kerr. Just absolutely active, and that's what the Warriors really need now. During All-Star break, Draymond said, maybe 3 to 4 weeks after the break, he'll be back.
Right.
We're about 2 weeks removed from that. So it could be coming, but nothing is set in stone.
So we still have a little bit of time to burn, Kendra. All of a sudden, the Warriors, they've dropped 7 of their last 9. They've fallen to a whopping 7.5 games behind the top-seeded Suns. And get this, the 3-seeded Grizzlies, they're just a half game behind the Dubs now. So I do want to welcome in Zach Lowe to the conversation, our senior writer. But my question to the panel, and I do want to start with Zach here, what adjustments can Steve Kerr make to the defensive side to mask maybe some of the defensive deficiencies while Draymond Green remains sidelined, Zach?
I don't think there's any low-hanging fruit on that end of the floor for Steve to do other than just wait for Draymond. I actually like the fact that the Warriors are stretching out Kuminga and Moody, who had a great fourth quarter last night, to see what they have in those guys and see what they might contribute to the playoffs. But I think this is just wait and see. Their defense hasn't even been that bad. It's been average, slightly above average without Draymond. Their offense is missing him just as much as their defense. And really, you guys mentioned Memphis. Look out for Utah. Golden State is in danger of slipping to 4, which would give us a Phoenix-Golden State matchup in the second round. I don't think either team would really like that, so that's another subplot to watch here.
What do you think, Matt?
I mean, this team has mastered small ball for one reason and one reason only. Draymond Green. His versatility, his intelligence, his heart. He's a security blanket for this team, as we've been mentioning since he's been hurt. So, again, he is the security blanket on the defensive end, but he's also the orchestrator on the offensive end. This guy gets Steph and Klay the ball where they need it, but then also when everyone is trying to overplay Steph and Klay, he gets all the guys slipping to the basket. So, to me, the one positive thing is you're getting young guys that are getting valuable minutes heading into the playoffs. But I think we all know this team goes as far as Draymond's health this season.
Absolutely. And, you know, when I'm talking to a lot of coaches and other staff members of the Warriors organization, that's exactly the message they have. One person said that he's the control center for everything they do on both ends of the floor, as Matt's saying. And Steph Curry said point blank, we're not going to be anything great without Draymond. Steve Kerr said the same thing. I asked, is he the key for any of your postseason success? And he just looked at me and said, yes.
Right. And when I sat down with Steph Curry over All-Star break, I said, can you win it without him? And he sort of gave me one of those, yeah, but it's going to be really tough. He is we've said it so many times. There's some teams have different hearts and souls of the team. Draymond is both the heart and soul of this team. They know they need him back. Draymond knows they need him back. And, you know, maybe in the next couple of weeks, as Kendra's reporting, it could be coming, but we're not necessarily at the point where it's close yet. All right. Saturday's primetime game on ABC and the ESPN app. Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and the Warriors, they're in LA to take on LeBron James and the Lakers. Our coverage begins with NBA Countdown at 8 Eastern. But first, our NBA Friday doubleheader tips off your weekend. The Bucks take on the Bulls at 7:30 Eastern. Then the Suns host the Knicks. Our coverage starts with NBA Countdown at 7 Eastern on ESPN and the ESPN app. All right, speaking of the Suns, some news now. ESPN senior writer Baxter Holmes reporting that the lawyers leading the NBA's investigation into the Phoenix Suns and majority owner Robert Sarver are preparing to interview Sarver himself. So sources told Holmes that investigators have interviewed more than 300 people so far. Remember, this investigation was launched in November after ESPN published a story that included allegations of racism and misogyny in a, quote, sometimes hostile and toxic workplace during Sarver's tenure. neither the Suns nor off his franchise record 52-point performance on Monday, taking on the hottest defense in the NBA. All right, Ja Morant, gives it up, only to get it back, Janae.
I love equal opportunity dunks, meaning throw it to your PG because he's got the most bunnies. And with the left, that's crazy.
I see what you did there.
Bars.
That was a bar. Yeah, that was multiple bars. And then Ja Morant again.
I mean, what? Show and go, get stripped, and the Celtics are off and running.
And that was the story of the night. I mean, Ja Morant, he had his moments last night, but this man, Jason Tatum, all the way to the hoop again and again. He was in his bag.
Yeah, especially late in this game because, that's where it was. Ja heated up late, and so did Jason Tatum. But my goodness.
Jason Tatum throws it down. Ja did finish with 38 points, but man, Jason Tatum had something to say. He was getting it done inside and outside, Shanae. There he lets you know. Three-pointer, blows a little kiss to the crowd. Here's Ime Udoka after the game.
What is it about the halftime that you guys are able to make your adjustments and come out and play so, I guess, well or differently than the first half?
Well, you have the coach of the month in there.
And look who we have here. It's the Eastern Conference Coach of the Month of February, Ime Udoka. Thank you so much for joining us here on NBA Today.
Thank you guys for having me.
Of course. All right, so Jason Tatum, he gave you 37 last night, which, by the way, was his birthday. So that's what he gave you, but what did you give him?
We gave him a happy birthday shout out pre-game and in our film session, and obviously special day for him on a big stage, minus Jaylen Brown and some guys, and he's done what he's done all year. So happy for him. He's carried us, shouldered a lot of load, and had a big night last night.
Absolutely. And a shout out in a film session, that's not nothing, because sometimes these film sessions, they can get a little bit tense. So that is a birthday present right there. But how has Jason Tatum evolved this season on the court and also in the locker room?
Well, as far as a leader, he's much more vocal. In the past, obviously, coming in as a younger player, his elite status, had him up there right off top. But he had a lot of veterans around him, so he's kind of picking and choosing his way. Now, him and Jaylen, with the guys that have been gone over the last few years, they know that this is their team. Much more vocal, and then on the court, he's a bucket. He can get 30 in his sleep, and so we've just tried to help him grow and expand his game. And he's doing all the things he naturally does, but becoming much more of a playmaker, leader out there and getting everybody else involved.
He is a bucket, but on January 6th, you were 3 games under 500. And since then, you've been the best defensive team in the league and you've had the best record in the East. So what was the turning point this season?
Well, the simple answer would be health. Honestly, that was a big piece of it. We took our lumps early, obviously had some losses that really stung, but we were mixing and matching a ton of our lineups and rotations due to COVID situations and injuries. And so once we got everybody back healthy, the numbers showed in the small sample size that we were really good defensively and our offense would grow. And so we've gotten everybody back for a good stretch now, minus Jaylen going down the other day. But everybody's bought into the defensive mentality. We don't have a lot of holes defensively. When you look at Marcus, Jaylen, Jason, Al, and Rob, we have great size, versatility, length, and can do a lot of things defensively. So we've been great there, and then the offense has started to pick up recently.
Well, plus maybe a little bit of Eastern Conference Coach of the Month magic that was sprinkled in there a little bit. But there were whispers from some folks, and I believe in accountability, so yes, folks on this show too, that the Celtics needed to break up the Jays. How do you respond to comments like that?
Well, for me, anytime you have 2 elite high-level players, you just have to figure out how to make them work. And like I said, they've been in different roles in the past. You had, whether it's Kemba, Kyrie, Gordon Hayward, Rozier, you can go down the list, Isaiah Thomas. They've had a lot of other veterans with them. Now it's all on their shoulders to some extent. And, you put in some certain pieces around them, but the bulk of the minutes, bulk of the plays and everything will be ran from these guys. And so it was different for them to be in that position, but anytime you have 2 elite players like that, the one thing I said was everybody talking about breaking them up would love to have any of these 2 in a heartbeat. So we'll figure out how to make it work.
Absolutely. And part of the way that you have made it work as of late is adding Derek White at the trade deadline. So you've had a relationship with him going back to San Antonio, but why is he such a good fit for this roster?
Well, he's a very cerebral player off top, has good size. So he fits right into what we're doing defensively. But I know who he is. The continuity that he brought to the group, it's like we didn't miss a step. He can do a lot of things. He's a true combo guard and fits into our versatile lineups on both ends of the court because of what he does. And so he hit the ground running, had a big first game, and, we feel very comfortable with what he'll do going forward. Now it's just a matter of getting him up to speed with what we're doing on both ends and getting kind of tightening some things up for this home stretch last 18 or so games.
And also getting settled in Boston, right? Because when I was out there, he told me that he still had half of his stuff still in Texas, and he needed to get all of his family moved out there. There's all of that too, right?
Yeah, he went back to San Antonio for All-Star break, said he got to reminisce for a few days and geared up a little bit, I guess. But, he also has a baby on the way soon. So that's obviously an adjustment, getting his family out here, getting situated as far as that. But like I said, on court, it was almost seamless transition for him.
Absolutely, and it showed absolutely on the court as well, and it showed in your guys' record too.
It could take one game, it could take 20 games. It's just a matter of actually just getting out there and seeing what works for us. It's not like a certain formula, criteria. This is how you know when you build chemistry. It's just kind of an organic thing that happens naturally.
All right, so it was a successful return in the box score for Kevin Durant on Thursday with 31 points in 35 minutes, but knowing KD, it was unsuccessful without the win. So we're now joined by ESPN Nets reporter Nick Friedel, who was in Barclays last night. And Nick, Brooklyn got one of their stars back on the floor. Now that KD has returned, what's the feeling within the organization about getting their season back on track here?
Malika, they're just not sure because nobody knows for sure when Ben Simmons is going to be able to return. Nobody knows for sure when that vaccination mandate here in New York City is going to be rolled back and Kyrie can play in home games. And that's why that loss last night was so deflating. There were a lot of staff members walking out of that arena last night going, oh, man, because like you said, Kevin was awesome. Kevin looked like the Kevin Durant of old. He looked like a guy who hadn't missed a month and a half. He came back. He played at such a high level, and they still lost. So knowing that this game Sunday now in Boston is hugely important because Kyrie will be there. Those two can play together for the first time in almost 2 months. But the reality for the Nets is nobody knows exactly when they're going to be whole.
Absolutely. And there was a couple of chances that they had down the stretch. That three-pointer that was halfway down for Kevin Durant, with the floater off the front rim. But the obligatory question, Nick, I know you touched on it. The Nets, they're still awaiting one more piece to make their debut in Ben Simmons. So when might we see him in a Brooklyn Nets uniform?
Malika, it's still at least a few more weeks away. I think this back issue was a little more serious than they thought. People have to remember something. Simmons still hadn't been cleared for practice at all. So he had been doing some individual work, and his teammates had been getting to know him a little bit, but he hadn't gone through anything in a team setting. Sean Marks, the Nets GM, gave an interview to Yes Network last night, and he said the hope is that Simmons can join team activities at the end of next week. But you have to remember, he's missed over 9 months now. He hasn't played an NBA game, and he's got to ramp up getting into practice, learning the system, and getting comfortable with all his new teammates. The key to remember, though, is physically, Simmons is having some issues with his back. Mentally, KD said this yesterday, he feels like Simmons is in a great place up here.
Right.
And that is crucial given what happened at the end of his tenure in Philly. But as far as when he'll make his Nets debut, it feels like it's at least a few more weeks off.
Well, and when he does, we know who will be in the building. That would be you, Nick Friedel. Thank you so much for joining us on NBA Today. Really appreciate you, my friend. All right, now the Nets, they have 18 regular season games left on the schedule. So they travel to red-hot Boston on Sunday, where presumably Durant and Kyrie Irving will be reunited for the first time since KD's absence. So Irving, he only has 7 more games on the schedule that he's actually eligible to play in as of right now. So it seems like at least some of Brooklyn's hopes, right, they may hinge on getting Ben Simmons back into the mix. So when he is back in the mix, Matt, how do you expect that to maybe raise this team's ceiling?
I think it's going to raise the ceiling drastically. Again, this is one of the best young players. People forget how quickly talented he is. I mean, although he had some issue, this guy's an all-star, first-team, all-defense, and he's really a nightmare coming downhill with the ball. Now you put KD and Kyrie on both sides of him, Seth Curry. I mean, the floors are going to be so spaced. He's going to really be able to eat and do what he does. Again, he's not too worried about getting his shooting touch back. That's not necessarily his game. And then again, the immediate impact is going to be on the defensive end. Someone who's 6'9" that can guard anyone on the floor and really shut them down. So I'm excited just to see him. He's been through so much mentally. He stood his ground in Philly. He was not going to play. He didn't play, lost money. But I think once he's able to get back out there, we're going to see, the old Ben Simmons as far as an all-star and a monster on defense.
Absolutely. I do want to bring Zach Lowe into this conversation with us because I am curious, Zach, do you believe that the ceiling will raise significantly when Ben Simmons comes back, especially given that the games he's going to be able to play in the regular season, it gets fewer and fewer every day?
Malika, I'm tired. I'm tired of the Nets. I'm sad. I'm sad that we just continue to have this if, when, believe, hope, ramp up, ramp down discussion about the Nets. Sometimes I wonder, have I been imagining this whole era of Brooklyn Nets basketball? Has it been a figment of my imagination? Like, when I don't know what this team is anymore. But look, Matt's right. When Ben Simmons comes back, he's an incredible fit with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. He's an all-defense level player. He'll get them open threes galore. They don't need him to handle the ball or shoot late in games. They have great three-point shooters all around him. I guess I'm at the point now where it's kind of like, wake me up when this team exists as a real thing, because in actual life, they're 500 and at risk of not making the playoffs. And if Ben Simmons is what did Nick just say? Weeks away?
Yeah, that's the regular
season. Weeks is what we have
season.
left in the season. That's it. There's no more time.
Yeah.
I'd have to agree, Zach, and I was going to play on the time because the idea was March 10th. That was the date because of Philly game and a lot of...
Come on.
No, but we know that that's not happening, right?
Right.
And so now it's weeks away. Well, they ain't got that kind of time, boss. KD has come back largely because he's been summoned. They know that when he was, and I think Matt said it earlier in the show, when he played earlier alongside James for some of those games, there were 1 or 2 in the East. Now his team is slipping all the way to the play-in. And he's literally, can you imagine, the best player, one of the best players and scorers, is buying time for his teammates, buying time for circumstances to change for Kyrie, buying time for Ben to feel more comfortable so that he can play. I'm excited. You're right. I'm tired, boss. I am definitely tired about Brooklyn. I'm tired about Los Angeles, the Lakers.
Yeah.
But the reality is, Kevin Durant is correct. When they asked about how quickly can you build that chemistry, he said it could take a game, it could take 20. We all know if those 3 come together, it's probably on the shorter end of the spectrum than the longer, and that will be exciting.
Well, it needs to be on the shorter end of the spectrum than the longer. They don't have this kind of time. And look, when I look at the top of the East right now, when I look at the Milwaukee Bucks, when I look at the Miami Heat, those teams should scare you. Those are scary teams. The way that they're constructed now, they are scary.
I completely agree.
No,
I agree with you guys, but I'm thinking a healthy, full Nets team is scary for anybody. And on the flip side,
but will they get there? Shouldn't you be more scared of the Miami Heat that are
fully loaded
and that are resting players and still beating Brooklyn as they're currently constructed, which could be the Brooklyn that we see in the future? Shouldn't you be afraid of Drew Holiday and their ability to beat the Miami Heat, by the way, after being down by double digits? Shouldn't you be afraid, I know 2 of the games were against the Knicks, of the Philadelphia 76ers and how they're presently constructed? So I'm with Zach. Wake me up later. I'm